is the Lenovo K900, and there are two firsts for this phone. The first is this is Lenovo's first attempt at a flagship smartphone. Second, and the most critical one, is this has Intel's latest Atom processor for smartphones. And that's also a fairly serious first attempt for Intel, so this phone has a lot resting on its shoulders. Before we get into the performance aspect in the review, let me run you through how the phone feels, the build quality, and the user interface. The screen is a 5.5-inch display, so you would expect the phone to be big, but this one is quite large. The design element is fairly simple. It's a flat slab of what essentially looks like a bar of chocolate. This means the sides, the top, the back, everything is flat, helps with holding the phone. There are no elements which are basically intruding into the ability to grip the phone. The reason why this phone is quite big, and by big I mean vertically, is because of the thick bezel on the top and the bottom of the screen. Below the screen you have three keys, touch sensitive keys, which hide away very nicely when they're not backlit. The sides completely flat. This one has the volume rocker here. This side again completely flat, the SIM card slot and the power key. On the back you get a very classy looking brushed aluminium stainless steel finish, but if you're not careful this thing will get scratches, as you can see here. So you might want to keep this phone in the pocket which does not have any coins or car keys or a pen lying around. The 13 MP camera on the top. If you notice the design element here, on the top and the bottom you get a much more subtler design finish in comparison to the battery cover. Speaking of the battery cover, the battery is not user accessible. You get 4 screws here. This is again a visual element for you. Basically you are not supposed to open the phone unless there's something wrong with it, and the service center guys do. So don't open the phone and void the warranty is what we'll say. Lenovo has kind of stuck to its roots as far as the user interface is concerned. If you look at the lock screen, the Lotus layout basically is very reminiscent of the first generation of Lenovo smartphones and tablets. Beyond that, what you get basically is very minimal changes to the UI. Now, you get a bunch of widgets, but that's pretty much it. Everything else remains pretty much the same. Yes, some of the icons have been changed, but that's mostly for applications that Lenovo has wrapped something for its user interface around. The UI is very slick. Now let me get you through into the performance aspects. You would have seen the benchmarks in our review, but while the benchmark numbers for this Intel processor may not really be up to the ones in the likes of the HTC One and the Galaxy S4, but the performance of this phone is excellent. Even during multitasking in our testing, we had like 6 or 7 apps open in the background, and this phone did not slow down at all. That is a very important aspect, and what's also helped by the fact is that this phone has 2 gigs of RAM. But one thing that you will immediately notice, something that we immediately noticed, was even under the slightest of load, that is just browsing through the UI or using the camera for a while or web browsing for 10 or 15 minutes, the phone really heats up at the back. It's something that is not isolated to any particular point, but the entire panel heats up quite considerably. So that's something that Lenovo and Intel probably have to figure out in the next software update, because this is going to be bad for battery life and components in general. Apart from that, this phone, well, it's big, it's tall vertically, but it's very easy to hold. I mean, it doesn't slip out of my hand at all. The weight is pretty evenly balanced throughout. That's the good thing about the phone. It's currently available in the market for about $29,500 if you find the right deal. Interesting phone. Again, you would probably buy this if you want to buy something different. If you want a phone that stands out in the crowd. Unless that's the criteria, you would probably be better off looking at some of the more established alternatives till Intel and Lenovo kind of iron out little niggles as far as the heating of the phone is concerned.